So I'm talking today to Caroline Collins. Hi, Caroline.
Hi, Emma.
And Caroline, you are a coach, but you've got a bit of a niche, haven't you? So would you like to introduce yourself and explain to us what that is?
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, so hi everyone. My name's Caroline Collins. I'm a nature-based and outdoor coach. So my business is Berkshire Nature Coaching, and I specialise in coaching outdoors and partnering with nature.
Yeah. So what does that mean exactly? So do you always go outside, no matter what the weather?
So we don't always go outside. You can partner with nature and bring nature into the conversation if you're coaching on screen, or or sometimes what we might do if I'm not geographically close to a client is we'll work on the phone. So we'll both be outside in our respective locations,
Oh.
but not necessarily together.
So you kind of walk and talk
Walk
on the
and
phone?
talk,
Yeah.
exactly, which actually is really, really additive to coaching. It adds a really interesting dimension when you can't see the other person, but you're, listening for those cues whilst they're talking and listening to their breathing and things like that. It's really, really interesting, actually. But yes, the majority of the work that I do is outdoors.
Yeah.
And I work with clients. So as you know where we are, we're on the sort of Berkshire, Buckinghamshire border. So
Yeah, on the river,
which is
yeah.
lovely, and then not too far away from London. So my corporate career was in London, so I'll work with clients in some of the London parks, and done some nice work in Hyde Park and different places like that. So usually you can find a nice outdoor spot
Anywhere.
anywhere.
Yeah, so even in the city,
exactly.
you can find the river, you can find the park.
Yeah, we're so lucky with London to have
Yeah.
such fantastic outdoor space there.
Yeah, and I suppose in any city, any town, you can find something, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. Even being a bit creative, you can find something.
Yeah, yeah. So why nature? Why outdoors? Does that bring some creativity to the table?
Yeah, so loads of benefits,
Yeah.
and lots of research around this. So a lot of it's sort of backed up with, scientific research and data as well. So lots of benefits around reducing stress levels, reducing blood pressure, lots of benefit. And I think actually this is something that's really come into focus in the last few years around the cognitive benefits as well. In the digital age that we work in, and there's lots of recognition and awareness now around how our attention spans are fragmenting and our ability to focus and concentrate with all the stimulus that we're exposed to in our normal working
all the noise
lives.
and everything, isn't it?
The noise, the screen time, the social media, all of those things. And nature has been proven to be really restorative to our ability to focus and pay attention, and just really improve our cognitive abilities. And the other benefits, sort of from a more broader emotional perspective as well. We find being in nature calming, and there's lots of studies actually, and particularly this concept called biophilia, which is all about how in essence we have come from nature and we are part of nature, and we have that instinctive affinity with it, and we've lost that connection because of how we live our lives a lot of the time.
Our lifestyle, the environment.
Exactly, all of those things. So taking time to come back to nature, and in a coaching context, is really restorative, and as you rightly pointed out as well, great benefits for creativity. Really helping us to think differently and feel better about ourselves.
And what kind of coaching is it? So you mentioned corporate, so is it career coach or coaching within companies, or is it like team-based coaching?
Yeah, so all of those things really. So the specialism for me isn't necessarily, I specialise in career coaching, or it's not necessarily topic specific. It's more the how of the coaching that is my specialism. So yeah, I work with organisations, corporates. So I work with leaders and teams in organisations. I work with private individuals, and I suppose it tends to be either, often people come to coaching with a sort of reactive opportunity or an issue that's arisen, perhaps redundancy, perhaps a promotion in the career sphere, you know, perhaps from a broader life perspective, they're wanting to, you know, build in more flexibility or, you know, purpose and values or something like that. So I'll work with people on any of those topics, as I say, corporate or as a private individual. But I do have some, and so I'll structure a program about whatever it is that they're presenting. I suppose I have a couple of ones that I offer at a more standardized perspective. One is around digital detox and you know, refocusing and building your attention span and your ability to pay attention, and the other is around purpose and values. You know, those are kind of two things that I've noticed a need for, and people tend to you know, tends to crop up for people quite often.
Especially with the digital, because we've got phones with us all the time, haven't we?
Exactly.
I mean, I've done some kind of walking, netwalking in nature, and I whip the phone out and I usually use it just to take videos and photos. And you could argue that I'm not in the moment. And part of me is that I quite enjoy taking photos. I'm quite creative myself, but there's a flip side to that, isn't there? Where it's like, just leave the phone alone.
I think it's really interesting. And you know what I'm starting to do is I'm starting to actually unpick the, you know, the phone as the source of all the tools that you need.
Source of evil.
You know, a little bit maybe.
So it has all the tools in there.
Exactly. But I'm thinking about buying a camera this year. You know, so I'm gonna, because I find myself a bit like you when I go out walking the dog and things. I try and leave the phone at home. But then I want to take pictures and it's beautiful and I want to capture sort of moments or different things, and so I'm thinking about buying a camera so I can do that without having to bring the phone with
like
me.
When source of all evil, it's all of the things. I mean, it's not evil, but you pick it up and it's like, oh, there's a notification from Facebook, or there's my emails. Everything is in one place. Exactly. And it all pings. I know you can change settings and things, but usually it's all showing at you, you know.
And for someone like you as well, who you know, that's a big part of your work. You know, that's really hard to say, well, just delete Facebook or delete LinkedIn or whatever. You know, that's not an option for you.
No, exactly. And I suppose like you can turn notifications off, like, especially WhatsApp. That's quite good, like with groups and things like that. I mute all of that. But and you know, at night as well, that's another one I do like to switch off. I'm not one for kind of working at night, and I can get up in the morning and I can see that business owners obviously do work through the night, and they'll ping you and they'll message you, and I'll pick them up in the morning, and I don't work like that, and I do try to be strict with myself as well.
You've got to have your own boundaries, absolutely.
Because otherwise it does suck everything out of you, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I mean, and the other thing is, you know, working in the city. You've done it yourself. I've done it. You know, I've even lived in London, getting the tubes. And you are away from nature, and everything's fast paced. Life is fast paced, isn't it? And we just need to slow it down.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think, and that's interesting. That's one of the other ways that I work with people. So you might work with someone over a period of time on a particular topic or a particular problem. One of the other ways that I work with people is, I suppose, in a bit more of a personal trainer, kind of in that longer term proactive capacity. So, you know, we're not necessarily working on a particular thing, but we're, you know, I'm providing that space, that sounding board over time to really just help people show up at their best. Which, as you say, we're constantly exposed to these ways of living and being, that we can't always change the system to how we'd want it to be in a utopian world. You know, we work in London, we're doing the commute, we're you know, in a big job with a big responsibility, you're going to be on your phone, aren't you? So we can't necessarily not do those things. So working with someone over time just to help them ground and focus and remind them of, you know, what's important to them and how they can build that into their lives.
And it's very holistic as well, isn't it? Because as you say, it is building it into your life. It's everywhere, isn't it? It's just slowing down. So it's mental health.
Being intentional, you know, really sort of, as you say, slowing down, reflecting, pausing, being intentional about the things you want in your life or the way you want to live your life, I think is, we don't do that a lot of the time because we're barreling along at 100 miles an hour.
Everything's so fast, and we've got lots of things. We've got careers, we've got children, we've got life. It gets in the way. We've got to everything.
It's just, that's right. It's a lot.
And with the coaching, could it be anything? So you've got different. I mean, from me, I've spoken to different types of coaches. So life coaches, career coaches. So, and you mentioned that it isn't one particular topic. So it can be any of those things.
Because I think for me, coaching on one particular topic, or I would worry that I was, being a bit formulaic. With, and everybody is different, and everybody has different background and different aspects to their life that makes them who they are, and that means that what every person will want is different.
So if you're working with a group as well, you've got more people to
exactly
get to know.
Exactly that. So I find that working with different people keeps me more creative and keeps me more tuned into who they are and what's actually going on for them.
That must be good for you, actually.
And it's more gives me the creativity. It's sort of stimulating for me to work with different people in different walks of life, different priorities. Absolutely.
And do you kind of think about, right, where we're going to go? So say it is a team in a workplace, you kind of think, right, well, they're near a park, so we're going to take them to the park, or they've got a garden in there by their office, or you kind of think about all these things.
Exactly.
They're going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're, when I work with teams and we're doing off-sites, so I'll always try and sort of try and ensure that we're either in a place where there is outdoor space, or if, the venue's been chosen by the organisation, how can we make use of that? So if there's grounds to a hotel, for instance, or something like this, we'll make sure we get outside and we do those. For example, I was working with a team recently, new leadership team coming together. So forming those relationships, understanding how they like to work with each other and what's important to them as they sort of create their new team. So we did lots of work with them, pairing up, doing sort of coaching pairs, walking outside with each other, and spending time in that space, and giving them as well time to get off the bus. They're in the organisation, in the hurly-burly of organisational life and the pace and the pressure, when you can give them the opportunity to step out of that's where they get some time to reflect. Literally.
I used to be a trainer before, and anything where it was, right, let's just step outside, even if it's just for like half an hour to do one task or something like that. It's
and there's so many benefits to it. The benefit that, like a subconscious level, was the benefits that we talked about. Just being in a natural environment, whatever you're doing will benefit you to some level,
and you don't realize it.
But then you can be more intentional about that, and you can work with metaphor, for example. What natural metaphors can you see that help you sense make about the situation that you're in or the thing that you're talking about? That's often so powerful. The way just looking around at your outside environment will provide some insight or unlock some thinking that you hadn't necessarily thought about before. That really helps you with whatever you're sort of wrestling with. There's loads of ways that nature can be an enabler like that. Like you talked about, how do you sort of think about the space, and like another way is, if somebody is looking for perspective or bigger picture, thinking about, okay, well, where can we go where someone can get that big visual, open their mind, open their thinking, or conversely, perhaps someone is a bit vulnerable and is at the start of surfacing something difficult, and actually a bit more of an enclosed, sheltered, like a woodland space or something like that.
So again, it's like a sensory thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So if you go to the woods,
Yeah.
You're going to have a very different seasons
different seasons, absolutely.
Really, because some people kind of embrace the, you know, at the moment as we're talking, the clocks have just gone forward.
They have, yeah.
So we are kind of gone into spring. So a lot of people embrace that kind of longer days.
Yeah, you can feel it in yourself, can't you? You feel how you're naturally your energy levels change. You know what you're starting to think about changes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that again, that tuning into the seasons and working with the seasons as opposed to working against them or forget or trying to ignore them. You know, when we're heading into winter, that is a time for rest, and it is a time to
the wintering. I've been hearing this term a lot, wintering, slowing down.
Exactly.
In a lot of Scandinavian countries they call it hugger.
Yes, that's
hugger.
it. Yeah.
So it's all the lights and the coziness, the fires.
Exactly. And taking that, like nature is resting, you know, over winter. You know, that's take that permission that we're part of nature. We need that rest as well, and you know, embracing that and working with that and not against it, trying to battle through.
Do you notice that when you talk to or you're coaching people that there's slightly different energies and outcomes with the different seasons? Do you notice that from people?
Yeah, I think so. I think
there's always going to be a benefit to all of it.
Yes, exactly. And I think
it's going to be different, I suppose, for each person.
Yeah, so I suppose if you start working with somebody in the spring versus starting to work with somebody in the winter, you know, what does that or how does that influence the conversation that you have, or the you know, the insights that you surface? And I think it's about pace and, you know, allowing insight to emerge rather than forcing insight to emerge or forcing a course of action. You know, I think sort of sitting with tension or sitting with a problem that we don't have an answer to feels uncomfortable to us, because we're always rushing to sort it out, move on to the next thing. And so, you know, it does regardless of the time of year, there is a kind of slowing down and tuning into you know, what's going on for you, and tapping into whatever the seasonal you know, insight brings.
And I suppose the nature of what you do,
very good,
means that, you know, you are naturally slowing down anyway, as we mentioned. You are naturally doing that.
Yes, you are, exactly. So so, you know, sort of so I work with lots of different coaching techniques within coaching space. So I work with somatics, which is kind of paying attention to the body, the breath, you know, what somebody is you know, what's their body language doing, you know, how are they breathing, how are they you know, how is the sort of tension expressing itself in them. You know, work with some sort of NLP techniques, you know, sort of paying attention to the words that people choose to use or not, you know, what people are not saying as well as what they are saying. And so nature, it's also really additive to me as the coach, as well as to the individual that I'm working with, in that it grounds me and helps me to slow down and be more present and focused on the person.
And then when you're inside, you kind of, as you say, you can bring the elements in, or use cards and visualizations and things like that as well, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, if you're inside, if you're working, say, on a video call with somebody, then, you know, I'll sort of say, can they be by a window and can they look outside and see some nature, or perhaps they can have the window open and listen to the bird song or something like that. You can do. Even, you know, I have a little and I sort of encourage clients to do this sometimes. I have a mini indoor nature table. You know, so I've got some different natural objects that I have by the side of my desk that I might use for a mindfulness exercise. You know, so let's pay attention to something natural, and you know, let's look at it's a rock, or maybe it's a twig, or
shells
some shells.
off the beach.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Plants. I've got plants around.
You've got some lovely plants behind you.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like to bring that in.
Yeah, and all of that you can work with to change your state.
Yeah.
And sort of calm and ground yourself in a really powerful way, even though you're indoors. And even if you can't do that, having pictures of nature, listening to natural sounds, it all makes a difference.
So you talked about kind of looking at things, so something natural, but also cards and
pictures and yes, exactly. So you know, one of the exercises that I picked up on a course last year, actually. So I did a Blue Health coaching course, and so some NLP techniques as part of that, but sort of bringing those more into a nature-based and outdoors way of thinking. So you know, there's a technique called archetypes, which is, you know, recognizes that we all have certain characteristics, and some of those are kind of helpful and some of those are sort of more saboteur based characteristics, and there's kind of standard definitions for each of those, but you know, bringing that into a nature based kind of context, we're sort of looking into nature and looking around nature and saying, okay, well, what sort of characters can I see that I identify with, either positively or that perhaps hold me back a little bit, and you know, how do I draw meaning from those? You know, so for me, you know, when I was reflecting on this exercise, one of the things that I can be quite indecisive sometimes, you know, and I like to think of all the options, and I can, you know, get a bit sort of carried away in my brain, and sometimes I need to be a bit more decisive. Right? And so I was, you know, thinking about sort of animals in nature, and the kingfisher was one that emerged for me, because you know, you kind of see the kingfisher, don't you? Sat on the branch, and then all of a sudden,
it's gone,
and it comes back out with a fish.
So it's kind of thinking about what it's going to do, and it just gets on with it and does it.
So I've got some postcards on my desk where I've got these different animals that I were helpful to me. Think, right, what do I need to embody today? You know, how do I need to be intentional about what I'm doing? And when I need to be a bit decisive and get after some stuff, then think about that kingfisher to help me.
I think that'd be good for me, actually, because sometimes I reflect an awful lot. I work on my own, and sometimes it can get overwhelming because there's lots of different things that I need to do, and there's lots of different things that I should be doing, or my goals that I need to be kind of focusing on. And you've got your priorities and the things that you need to do. So you kind of can sit back a little bit and think, actually, I need to just get on with and do that.
So what would your, like, if you thought in that context, is there anything that comes to mind for you? I'm sort of just curious.
Well, I mean, I thinking about animals, I mean, I always kind of look at my cat, and I kind of feel quite envious that my cat can just sort of have this sort of, especially in the winter, they just sleep all day, but then they just sort of, they're a bit playful and a bit kind of they pounce about. The energy comes, you know, they come to life. I'd say at night. I'm not a night person, but
leaning into, like, recognizing when you get your energy. Absolutely.
So I can kind of have that kind of moment of just sort of slowing down, and then I can have that moment of energy.
I love that you identified the sort of playfulness as well, because you know, I think that's really important. Well, in all aspects of life, to be playful and so on. And I think I can imagine as a small business owner, you know, when you're sort of, it can be a lot, can't it? And you can hold it quite, the pressure, and you're the person who's doing everything, and remembering to have some playfulness and hold it a bit more lightly.
Absolutely. You kind of have to remember why you started. You always hear that term, you know, remember why you started. But you do have to kind of keep reminding yourself, like, what is the alternative? Going back to the corporate.
Where do you get the joy from, I suppose?
Where do you get that joy from? Absolutely.
Oh, lovely.
So I suppose, again, it's sort of looking at all those cards and looking at all those creatures and animals. And is it just animals? Is it other things?
No, not at all. It could be plants. It could be, you know, I'm kind of looking at the spring daffodils you've got just outside, and the sort of flowers are fading now, aren't they? But you know, there's meaning in that, isn't there?
There is. And new life.
Exactly. And you know, now that they're past their flowering stage, you know, they'll go back into the ground and start.
They'll come back next year.
Yeah.
Which I quite like about, you know, the daffodils and the tulips, is that they will come back.
Yes,
come back
and it tells us, I think, as well, you don't have to be in full flowering mode 365 days a year, and it's not realistic that you can be either. You know, we will have a flowering mode, we'll have a
good way of looking at it. I quite like that.
A mode when we'll be nourishing ourselves, and
and we have to remember that, don't we? Because we are human, and we have to take those breaks and sit back and reflect, and
exactly,
take those moments, or have those coaching sessions to talk it through.
Exactly. One of the other techniques that I like to use with clients is and particularly this works well actually either when you're starting working with a client, or if you're doing work on kind of purpose and values and things, it can be quite good, is mapping your ecosystem.
Okay.
So, you know, kind of thinking about who's in your world, what's in your world. You know, you could use lots of different analogies, but, you know, let's say a rock pool, for example. You know, what and who is in your rock pool, what's important to you, and it's a really nice way of thinking about your world, and thinking about taking a step back from it, looking sort of outside in, and working out what's important to you, what maybe isn't in your ecosystem that you want more of in your ecosystem, and just being intentional. And also for me as a coach, you know, it's a great way to start to get to know someone and understand them.
Is it different? Well, it will be different working in a group, working with individuals. It must be quite a different thing to kind of go into an organisation and to be thrown into this, because you have to get to know them or get a feel, because by the end of it everyone feels quite comfortable, but for all of you, they all know each other.
I always recommend the more kind of pre-work that I can do with a team, you know, the more discovery work I can do, the more time I can spend with them, you know, one-on-one, with the leader, sort of the more information I can gather before the actual first session, the better. Because it as you say, it helps the team get to know me, and people will be coming into those. There's always a layer of anxiety around the unknown of who is the person that's going to come and work with them, and whatever may be, you know, sometimes there'll be conflict or whatever conflicts there might be.
There might be somebody that's just not into, they don't want to be there.
Exactly. It wouldn't be the first time. Exactly, that wouldn't be the first time that
as an ex-trainer, I've had people in the room that don't want to be there.
Sometimes.
But then by the end of it, they're loving it. It's great.
Absolutely, and you know, again, that's, people are busy. You know, they've got different levels of comfort for being vulnerable in a group setting, and you know,
I can understand that actually. I mean, I did a women's circle a couple of months ago.
Fascinating.
And that was quite strange for me to share things in a group, and it was a group of people I didn't know as well. So I was quite selective, and I was very, you know, I only shared what I felt comfortable with. But then by the end of it, when everybody's sharing, you kind of embrace it, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's key. You know, there's lots of research around, and let's face it, when you're working with organisations, a lot of times the purpose in one form or another is about performance. You know, wanting to have a high performing team. You know, or individuals that are performing at their best. And there's lots of science around, one of the key components of a high performing team is that people need to have trust. And how do you build a trusting relationship with someone? You know, there needs to be some vulnerability there, and some showing who you really are and what really makes you tick. So you know, and I love doing that work, and
they bond a little bit more. Like you say, there'll always be a little bit of conflict in a team because they're thrown together. Not everyone gets on with one another.
No, exactly.
On a personal level. So
exactly. But I think if you can get to a point, and it's not that you're aiming to get to a point where there's no conflict anymore and everybody skips about happily together, but it's about how do you how do you create the conditions and help them build the muscle to work effectively when there is conflict?
Yes.
And do that in an adult way and a healthy way and manage that conflict, so that they can still be creative with each other and problem solve effectively, and all of the good things that we know we need.
I mean, do you kind of go into like personality types
sometimes?
When you have a team there?
Yeah,
sometimes. And they can recognise it as well, can't they?
Exactly. And those, a lot of those either psychometric tools or sort of personality profiling tools can be really helpful, actually, because they give a depersonalised language to talk about how we're all different.
Yes.
And again, that's another key component of what makes a really great successful team, is having that diversity in the team.
You can't all be leaders and strong. You can't all be sort of passive and sitting back. You need different. You need to bounce off each other, and you need those different strengths. You need people with different characteristics. You need people who think in different ways. People who enjoy doing different work. And once you can kind of recognise and celebrate all of that and be intentional about it, it really helps teams to function in a much more powerful because it's them recognise. Sometimes you might not even realise yourself.
Yes,
how you are.
And what you bring.
So we start unpicking it all.
Yeah, and also, I think recognising what others bring, when it's different to what we bring, or people approach things in a different way. Even if it's just about how people like to think, and understanding that, some people will instinctively have a preference for big picture thinking. Some people will have a preference to detail orientated thinking. And both of those things are really important. But if you've got two people who come together to have a conversation, and one of them only wants to talk, around the big picture, and one of them wants to talk in the nitty gritty, you've got, it's easy to see how tensions can result as a result of that.
So it's good for them to know who likes to do what or who does what.
Exactly,
as well.
and recognise that that's not someone showing up being ineffective or being intentionally difficult, but that's the difference. And once you recognise that that's what's happening, you can kind of just have an open conversation about, how the one person how to get the detail that one person needs, and how to get the bigger picture that the other person needs.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then doing that all out in nature as well, just brings that other dynamic to it.
But I mean, I think in team conversations, it takes the pressure off. It takes a lot of pressure off. Particularly if you're having to have or you're facilitating and encouraging people to have difficult conversations, or conversations around feedback, and those things that have got risk attached to them. Putting that in a natural environment is more relaxing. It's less heightened than it might be if you're in a meeting room or something like that.
It's literally a different environment. Can people go the other way though and kind of be too relaxed? And it's like kids going out to play. Do you ever get that where you get the silly ones at the back?
Absolutely right. And what I think, a little bit of people blowing off steam, and that's a response.
You gotta let them do it, I suppose.
A little bit, up to a point. There's a tipping point of where that's disruptive. But I think a little bit of people having some fun, because we spend a lot of our time at work, and a lot of that is pressurized and focused, and so giving people a little space to have some fun with it, and be a bit cheeky, or have a bit of I think is okay.
It works. So you haven't had anyone that's been a bit unruly and you've had to
snuck off and not come back,
or they're just messing about, and it's like, no, we need to bring this back.
I mean, I draw the line at having a beer behind a tree or something,
having a fag. So it all works. So I was going to ask you what you prefer, but maybe I shouldn't ask you whether you prefer like a one-to-one or a team, or I suppose it's all different, isn't it? You get different people, different dynamics.
And that is what I love, is just getting to know people and building deep relationships and getting trust with people, whether that be individual. You know, I think it's so precious when someone trusts you and opens up to you. I mean, what a privilege when someone chooses to you know, really talk about what's going on for them internally. And even shares things that they didn't realize was going on. You know, when someone has an insight that they didn't have before, and you've held space for them to do that. I mean, that's so powerful and such a privilege. And you know, and I get such joy from seeing, whether it be an individual or whether it be a team, from seeing them take those steps forward and be authentic and build great relationships with each other. The fact that I've played a small part in that is, whether it be a group or an individual, it's all it's all fabulous.
And do you work with them long term, or again, does that vary?
It does vary. You know, sometimes organisations will want, you know, a one-off intervention. Sometimes and if you're meaningfully working with a team to build a high-performing team, you're not going to do that in one session.
No.
I mean, my intent is always about building capability. You know, you want people, and individually as well, you don't want people to become dependent on you. That's not the solution.
You're giving them tools, though, aren't you?
Giving them tools and helping them build muscles, you know, for how to have difficult conversations. So you want them to, you know, you want to teach people to fish, really. So that they go away with that capability.
But then again, they probably need you back at some point. I think after a few months, do they fizzle back into their old ways? They need to
have absolutely
sessions again, to kind of refresh all that inside.
And teams change and context changes.
People leave, new people come in.
People leave, new people come in. You know, the organisational needs change over time.
Structure changes.
New leader will come in. You know, all of these
with
things.
New ideas.
Change is the only constant, right?
Absolutely. And then you've got the managers and stuff. You work with the team leaders and the managers.
Exactly.
You know, they're the ones that are driving it all, and they're the ones that have the biggest influence, really, on how the team operates and how happy they are.
And I think that's a really important point, because if you're working with if you're working with the CFO and the finance leadership team, for example, the impact that they can have, you know, or any senior leader and senior leadership team across the wider organisation in how they show up. I mean, yes, it's about their own relationships with each other and how they work together, but the ripple effect of that in the wider organisation is really powerful.
Absolutely. So it's really important to rein them in. Get them on track.
Set them up for success.
I think that is the right term. So, and then is it always, so you work a lot with the organisations and people who have careers, but do you work on mindset? Do you work with people who it's not about work and their own, you know, even if it's they've got their own business, but is it just mindset and just sort of dealing with life?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, you have to, I think for me, coaching, even if you're working with someone who's come to you with a specific brief, you know, maybe their role's been made redundant and they're looking to sort of reevaluate, or maybe they are wanting to do some work on purpose and values and what's important to them. You've always got to, whatever experiences that person has had in their life, you know, what shaped them and made them who they are will influence you know, how they think and how they react, exactly what they want, all of those things. And so you have to coach the whole person. You know, you can't compartmentalize really, because else it becomes quite superficial. So you have to, and also often people will show up with this is the thing they want to work on, but actually when you start to get into it, something else will emerge. You know, the thing is often not the thing.
And is this something that maybe they don't even realise until
sometimes
it starts coming out?
Exactly. You know,
but they obviously come to you because they know that they need you.
Exactly. And you know, people don't always have the self-awareness or, you know what is holding them back? You know, how are they getting in their own way? Or, you know, what's the sort of untapped opportunity or the untapped sort of talent that they've got?
Yeah. So would you work with those sorts of individuals over a long period of time, or does that vary?
Yeah, I mean, so typically I would work with, if I was working with an individual client, you know, let's say, we'd often talk about maybe six sessions over 6 to 8 months or something is quite a standard. That gives you a good amount of time to work with someone, to establish that kind of rapport and trust, and for, you know, them to sort of start to surface some really good insight. Work with people for longer than that. You know, we work with people for a shorter period of time than that. I mean, I probably wouldn't advocate working for less than 3 sessions, 3 months initially. But then, you know, once you've done an initial block of work with someone, having ad hoc sessions after that is can be beneficial.
And then you're giving them tools, and I suppose you're advising them to just get out in nature. I suppose you're kind of encouraging that for them to just sort of just go for a walk, you know, set something every day, or
there can be things that they can do, and sort of habits that they can and practices that they can develop outside of the coaching session.
So one thing that I've heard quite a lot recently is grounding. So I don't know if that's something that you've done, where you, and I've read that it's like within like the first sort of half an hour that you wake up, you know, shoes off, and you go and just stand, you know, on the grass or something and ground. So I don't know how effective that is. Maybe I should try it.
You know, grounding and cultivating presence and awareness, you know, really powerful. You know, one of the practices I have personally in the morning, the first thing I do when I wake up is I journal. So I'll just do a page or a couple of pages of the first thing. You try not to think about what I'm going to write. I just write what comes into my head, stream of consciousness. And that's a really good way of quietening your mind before you start your day. And then grounding and being present. I mean, another good practice is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you kind of get around the senses. It's not specifically a nature-based practice, but it easily transfers to that. You know, I'm going to forget the order of things, but 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch.
So it's sensory.
Exactly. So it's a sensory kind of grounding exercise.
See, what you can touch,
what you can hear, what you can taste, what you can smell, and just a way of really quietening your mind, becoming present and aware, tuning into what's going on around you. Really good way of dealing with anxiety in the moment, if you're feeling anxious or fretting about something, or like if you've got, I can have a bit of a monkey mind sometimes, firing off here, there and everywhere, if you need to just calm and quiet.
Me, actually. And my daughter, she has a bit of coaching as well. She's only 11, but again, it's talked about breathing, and that's the one thing that we have to kind of practice at home with her, that she does lots of breathing. But I really love these tools. Journaling is something as well that, you know, we might not even call it that. She's got a journal and say, just write down, or she'll draw your thoughts. Does lots of cartoons and comics, so she might just draw it out. So it's whatever works for you, and it doesn't matter how old you are, does it? I mean, obviously
not at all.
You don't work with children, but you know, these tools can work.
I think, you know, that I think it's fantastic that your daughter is learning those tools and habits at that age. You know, I wish that had been something that you know, had been
a thing when we were young.
Exactly.
Because I mean, I was very anxious at school, but I didn't notice.
Only
when I look back, I think, gosh, I think all the way through my teen years, just sort of managing life at school, you know, especially as a girl, you know, you've got all the hormones going on, the puberty going on, and
absolutely
people you don't want to be around.
And you know, anything I think that can help you at that age to start to develop, you know, knowledge of who you are and what you like and what you don't like and how you want to be in the world is incredibly powerful for setting you up for success later in life as an adult.
Yeah.
I mean, the journaling's a really funny thing, because I remember when I was in my early 20s having some coaching, it was a mentoring kind of relationship actually, and the person who was mentoring me said, "Have you tried journaling?" And I thought, "Don't be ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to write a diary. How silly!" And it just goes to show, doesn't it? When you're not ready for something.
Yes.
And
it wasn't talked about as much. I mean, I had a diary when I was probably about 12 or 13. And I didn't really know what I was on. Today I did this.
Yeah.
It wasn't really meaningful. It was just
exactly.
Like, it put a padlock on it, and like, all my friends had one. So I just did it. But it didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But it's when you kind of intentionally right, I'm just all the thoughts, just dump them, or the emotions.
Yeah, and it really does help you to process and work through how you're feeling, and get that sort of peace of mind and that clarity.
And it's important to kind of look back as well at what you've written, like say last week or last month, and just sort of see if you still feel like that, or whether it helped. Or
I tend not to do that when I'm journaling. I tend to just use it as a
in
the moment, exactly. I mean, sometimes I will, but not as an intentional practice per se.
So can it not be helpful really to kind of look back, especially if it's something quite negative, to sort of move on?
I think I mean, and it's a really interesting point around coaching, because the sort of traditional wisdom is, coaching is about moving forward and future focus, and how do you make progress. And counselling, on the other hand, would be about looking back and sort of trying to understand something by looking at the past and understanding who you are. And I kind of think, and there's more of an awareness, I think, now that with coaching, you do need a little bit of reflective understanding why you make the decisions that you do, or why you show up the way you do, and understanding how you've grown up and the things that have influenced you in your career and your life,
and our lives, our childhoods, the people pleasing. I hear that a lot. That's a learned behaviour, or it comes from something that is stem.
A lot of those ways that we get in our own way come from our past experiences. So reflecting on those and understanding them in order to move forward is helpful. Also there are I think with coaching, it's doing it to the point that it's helpful to inform how you move forward, as opposed to dwelling.
And it's being conscious of these things, because if we're not aware, and I think when I was younger, I wasn't aware of a lot of things. I'd probably deny a lot of things as well. And then it's just sort of being aware of it, so then you can work on it. And again, it comes back to your teams as well, of like how you are in your team and how others are as well. So just being aware of that.
And I think, when we started talking about, like, often people will come to coaching with a problem. Something that isn't working, something's causing them, they're not getting where they want to be in whatever the context is. And often when you start to get into that with them, something that is holding them back is a particular behaviour or a particular mindset that they've developed from life experiences. And so actually, behaviour change is, if you don't sort of get under the skin of what's driving the behaviour change, you won't. It's easy to say, that don't do that anymore, start doing this. But if it was that easy, then
absolutely.
It's more. There's more to it than that.
A lot of it's complex. Mindset, isn't it?
A lot of it's how we think about things.
And do you think that somebody should have some coaching, even if they don't feel like there's issues going on?
I think that proactive coaching is really powerful. When we want to show up at our best, and we want to be intentional about how we you know, how we're living our lives. I'm a big advocate for it, and I, you know, have reciprocal coaching arrangements with peers and colleagues, because you know, it's so additive to that. And especially, I think, you know, as an example, like senior leaders don't always have, you know, they are showing up in their organization as the leader, they're being inspirational, they're you know, leading the team. Even when they're doing that authentically, there's still an element of a mask there. And so having a safe space where you can take that mask off, where you can just think out loud, where you can share unformulated thoughts, is really additive, and really sort of helps people to recharge, get clarity, aids decision making, speeds up decision making. You know, you talked about, you know, when you're in your own head about something because you haven't necessarily got people you can soundboard with, that holds you back ultimately, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And if you can work through a decision more quickly,
more efficient, isn't it?
It's more efficient, as a, you know, you're more effective in the organisation, so that adds value, particularly if those are decisions that are being made at a senior level that have big impact on the organisation. You know, the quicker someone can work through what those are, you know, that has a really, really powerful impact.
Yes, it's really beneficial for organisations to bring coaches in, because you know, it's that decision making, it's that clarity, sounding off mental health, you know, just the stress, offloading the stress as well.
Exactly.
Which can also make bad decisions.
That's right.
So it's really important. So I love how you work with people. So, and it's in lots of different ways, isn't it? So it doesn't have to be in person.
No, that's right.
You've just launched a new website, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
What is your website?
So it's called berkshirenaturecoaching.co.uk. And so, as we said, so I do like to work outdoors, Berkshire, Buckinghamshire border, but you know, that can range up to Oxford kind of way, you know, over to sort of Guildford, Farnham, that kind of way, sort of home counties geography, and then obviously into London as well. So I you know, work in all of those parts of the country.
And then we mentioned right at the beginning about the walking, the talking on the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are further afield, then absolutely we can still work outside where you are. Absolutely. And you know, I think if you've got that place that is really meaningful to you where you are, you know, tapping into that and working with that space for inspiration, and absolutely.
And you're all the social media as well?
So I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably the main social channel that I'm on.
So Caroline Collins?
Yes, you can find me, Caroline Collins. I'm on LinkedIn. You'll see my corporate business, I suppose, which is Greenway People Partnerships.
Okay.
So yeah, you can find me there. You can find me on Berkshire Nature Coaching. Absolutely. I'd love to hear from anybody who's curious to know more.
Fabulous. Oh, thank you so much for speaking to me today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you.